Hey guys, I'm Garrett Heikes, and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Chasing the Dream TV. In this episode, we're going to combine some food plot management education from our friends at Kaup Forage Turf in Norfolk, Nebraska, with a couple of our hunts over one of the plots this past season. Let's start by joining Andy on his visit with the guys over at Kaup last summer.
My name is Stan Friesen. I work for Kaup Forage Turf in Norfolk, Nebraska. Been in the seed business here in Norfolk since 1989, so we're getting pretty close to 30 years already. Wildlife Perfect is our branded products, and we have several mixes. We got about 6 mixes that we put together, on the shelf type mixes. So if somebody comes in, they're not really sure exactly what they want, we've got some mixes that they can just take off the shelf and go. So some of the mixes we have, our most popular is our Deer Antler Builder. That's a high protein mix, puts on nice racks. That's the one we sell the most of. It's made up of about 50% annual plants, so they're gonna just last 1 year. The other half is perennial, but very high protein. It's got brassicas in it, it's got clovers in it, chicory. So it's a nice mix, it's really gonna attract deer. The other mix we have is a field mix. That is meant, has a little more perennial grasses in it, or crops. So it's gonna last, a larger percentage of that is gonna last from year to year, so you don't have to replant every year. With the Antler Builder, what people typically do, things like the turnips and radishes, things like that, that are only gonna last 1 year, they go out and just reseed some more of those every year. With the field mix, you've got mostly perennials, there's just a little bit of annual in there. And the field mix is meant for open areas. Okay, and then we also have a trail mix, which has shade-tolerant products in it, species in it. So it will do well in shaded trails. So really 3 mixes for deer. We also have a food plot for pheasants, and that's all annuals. It's got milo and millet and sunflowers. So it's gonna last 1 year, but really attracts birds and gives them, it has some forage sorghum in it, which gives them really good cover over the winter. And then we have a turkey mix, turkey food plot mix, which deer seem to like real well also, but that has a mixture again of different species of brassicas and clovers. The brassicas are fantastic, they're very high protein. Brassica leaves will typically have 30% protein, so very high protein. It also attracts with some of the clovers that are in there, so it's very attractive for the deer to come. And it gives them the nutrients that they're after when they're out feeding. The mixer behind us, we can mix 1,000 pounds at a time, and we do a lot of custom mixes. Someone will read something online that this is supposed to be really good, and so it's very easy. We have literally hundreds of products here. So if they come in and need something, if they want Ethiopian cabbage in there, or they want cowpeas, or anything like that, we can put those mixes together. And we do, a big part of what we do is custom mixes, because guys have an idea of what they want specifically for that ground. And so again, the prepackaged ones are great because they can just grab it and go. If we have to do a custom mix, depending on how busy we are, it might take, they may have to go and go to Dairy Queen and sit there and have the blizzard for an hour or so till we get the mix put together, but we can get that done. And that's a lot of what we do, that we can really customize it to what the customer's after. Getting a good seed bed is absolutely critical. Just throwing seed out on top of the ground, and when there's weeds out there and a lot of cover, it's not gonna work. People say, well, Mother Nature does it that way. The seeds, brome will produce seed, it drops on the ground, it grows. Well, that seed may be on the ground for a long time before it actually grows. So weed control, number one, you got to eliminate the competition. Weeds have been here a lot longer than we have. They know how to survive in this climate. So getting that cleaned up. So non-selective herbicide like Roundup. I like using Roundup because it has no residual. You can spray it a week later, everything's dead, you go in there and seed, and you've got a chance for the crop you're planting to be ahead of it. Incorporation, you need to get seed into dirt. Sitting on top of the soil, if you have constant rain, kind of like we did last week, it may sprout, but once it dries out, it's gonna be dead. And so you wanna get it mixed up with some dirt. And you can't plant it too deep. A lot of these seeds are really small, and if you're planting some of these clovers at 2 inches deep, they're never gonna come up. So most of the products in this is going to be in probably a 1/4 to 1/2 inch depth. and then packing it. And then, you know, the weed control afterwards is just a matter of keeping up, and if you've got some weeds coming in there, to control them. And the easy way to do that early in the season is to clip it. You don't want to necessarily use chemicals. And really with these mixes, when you've got a mixture of grasses and broadleaves, it's really hard to find a spray that's going to work. So even, you know, hand roguing, things like that. Get it clean. The other thing is keep the deer out of it initially to give it a chance to get established, because they'll find it pretty quickly.
We chose the antler builder mix for this plot for a couple of different reasons. Obviously everybody likes bigger antlered bucks, but that wasn't our main goal. At this spot, there's not a crop field for at least 2 miles in any direction, but it's got perfect secluded cover and everything else a deer needs to survive. And we chose this spot kind of because it loads up with does in October that are trying to get away from all the bucks. And once pre-rut rolls in, so do the bucks. And we knew if we had a better food source out here than the natural forage, that we'd be able to draw and hold deer longer into the season.
So what we had going on is 3 or 4 days ago we got the 2,4-D down. We're letting everything kill off. Here in about 3 or 4 days we plan on just doing a light disc, and then we're going to go in with the spreader and then hopefully drag it over. I think it's going to all work out. But you guys were able to hook us up with the chemicals, the seeds, so can't thank you enough. Perfect.
Here's some clips and pictures for you guys of some of the food plot work we did on the ranch last summer, between spraying off all the weeds, mowing, disking, and seeding. And here's some pictures of the plots during the growing cycle on to when they reached full potential later in the season. Due to the timing of when the deer really pile into this area, we chose the antler builder mix because of the amount of brassicas it has in it, which is a great nutrition source for the deer, and it really becomes attractive to them after the first hard frost, when the leaves and the bulbs of the turnips and radishes convert from starches into sugars. And you'll see in one of the hunts coming up how they've mowed down the tops of the brassicas, and now they're starting to dig up the bulbs. On this hunt, Andy and I are set up in a spot that overlooks some of the main trails leading from our plot back to deer bedding. We end up getting caught off guard by one of our hit list bucks coming out of a tree pocket off to our side. So we had to scramble to get resituated, and there isn't much pre-roll, but let's check out how it goes.
plan came together. We got out early this morning, got out to the hillsides here about 6:30 a.m., got set up, I got sat down. We were hunting a big draw that we put a food plot over top of. We were thinking that we could intercept deer, either leaving or even just that got caught up with a doe or whatever earlier that night. And first thing, I mean, it was within 10 minutes, 15 minutes of shooting light. We spotted a buck, one of our hit listers, a 5-year-old, we believe. Think we got a good shot on him, probably a high lung shot. We're going to give him a little bit of time here, hopefully let him bundle up and expire. Then we're going to go try and track him down. So, you know, it wouldn't be deer season if there wasn't a little bit of anticipation, a little bit of drama. So we're going to give him a little bit of time here and then go get on his trail.
So that was a buck that we call Homeboy because he's lived in this spot for the past few seasons, and we get more pictures of him out there than any other buck. It's kind of hard to see in the video since he's 250 yards away at first light, but he's about 130 to 140 inch 8-point, and we're thinking that he's 4 or 5 years old based on the pictures over the past few years. He kind of caught us off guard, so it was a scramble to get him on video. But Andy made one shot on him and missed just barely over his back, and he was able to get a second shot off a little higher up the hill, and we thought it was a good shot, and we wanted to give him some time anyway because he kind of staggered into the trees where we figured he would bed down and die. I was watching the video over and over back at the truck, and it looked like a good hit, but I couldn't tell exactly where it was. So we gave him a few hours and we went and checked, and we actually bumped him out of the trees right there where he went over, and we ended up tracking him all day for a little over 2 miles on very little blood, and we kind of gave up thinking that he was gonna go on to the neighbors and die and we wouldn't see him again. But the next weekend when we came back and checked the camera, he actually showed up 3 days after we hit him and was hitting scrapes again. So that could go either way. At that time we were thinking he could still die, but the next few weeks after season we kept getting pictures of him and he looked completely fine. So I blew the footage up and watched it over and over. I couldn't tell you how many times. And what it looks like, there's a little dead cedar tree right in front of the buck that it looks like the bullet deflects off of and hits him in the brisket, which is right in front of the front shoulder. And if you hit a deer right there, sometimes it's just meat. Obviously there's the esophagus and everything that you can hit and kill the deer, but where it looks like this hits is just low in the brisket. So we're thinking that's why that he's still fine, and in the pictures you can't see any hole at all, but in the video you can tell it definitely hit him. But things like that happen. Can't really put any excuses on it. It's a far shot at first light, and being a little dead cedar tree in the way, that's something we couldn't see, and stuff like that happens in hunting. It's okay to admit it, but we're definitely looking forward to what he looks like this coming season, and hopefully we can show you guys on the ground someday. These first couple pictures are Homeboy in the 2017 season out at the same spot. And these next few photos are Homeboy in the same spot in the 2018 season from velvet on after rifle season after he was hit. Let's head to the blind where Andy and I sat over the plot in hopes of connecting with one of our hit list bucks, but also planning on doing a little bit of doe management.
just got out of the blind. We tried to hold out for a buck where we had our mindset to where we're gonna do a little doe management, but we're gonna try to hold out as long as we possibly could to try and get a buck. We had 6 doe in on that food plot. Big thanks to Wildlife Perfect. Guys over at Kaup Forage Turf again. Those turnips are just bringing deer in left and right. As soon as we got to the blind and got set up, deer started funneling in. I think we had 6 deer on that plot at the time we took the shot, and we tried to hold out. We thought they were acting like there might have been a buck coming in, and we know there's some mature bucks in the area. We've been seeing them this entire season, but we just ran out of light. But we got a doe on the ground. I'm happier than I'll get out. My wife sent me a text first thing this morning. She said, "You better get me a doe for the freezer." So I'm gonna listen to old Mama Bear. We got you your doe. And we're gonna go pick her up right now. Well, here she is. Didn't go too far, still on the plot here. Almost out of daylight, so we're gonna go ahead and get her loaded up in the truck, get her all cleaned up and get her swinging back in the barn. So once again, I couldn't be any happier with how things played out, and got some more meat in the freezer.
I think that was a pretty fun hunt for both of us, finally seeing all of our hard work pay off. And I'd like to thank the guys over at Kaup Forage Turf for working with us last summer. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what we're going to do this coming season. And thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of Chasing the Dream TV.